What is up, passionate Pokemon players? I'm Ryan, and we are here with another episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. Today we've got another different deck, very different deck. One of the most, I almost want to call it odd, but just different in terms of what we're doing and what the mechanic is that we're doing. We're going with a single prize, for the most part, deck in the Alolan Raticate. This is another pretty old deck I've made that for this video I updated it. I've been kind of thinking about when and if I wanted to do it, but I'm thinking, considering it is F regulation and it's going to rotate in about 4 months or so, it's probably now or never to get this one out there. So if you do like it, then you can be able to still use it, have a little bit of fun using it. So we will see. So before I get into what the deck is about and what's in it, how to use it, what the strategies are, strengths and weaknesses, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can join the Hawks Nest. We are a still small but growing every day flock of fearless folks who just love to do what we're passionate about and love to help others do what they're passionate about. I'm passionate about Pokemon. What are you passionate about? Find it and follow it. If you're not ready to fly yet, just hit that like button. Hopefully we'll show back up in your algorithm, and leave a comment. What do you think about this deck? Is this a deck that you consider using? Is it a viable deck? Let me know. Alright, so we've got the deck up here. We've got it starting off with our Alolan Raticate. Now, what this deck is going to be basically built around is this Super Fang ability. The Super Fang is going to put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10. So remember that it's not dealing damage. It is putting damage counters on them until their HP is 10. So keep that in mind. It's going to get them down to 10 HP. It is something that is meaning that if a Pokemon is resistant to any abilities or effects, that it may not work. And then we're also going to talk about, like, okay, well, we're getting it down to 10. How are we going to knock them out? More to come on that. So let's start from the beginning here, which is our Radiant Greninja. That's going to be our draw engine. We are going to want, of course, to have the Radiant Greninja in there. So easy money on that. Then our Alolan Rattata. Really, we need this one because it evolves from. This is one, I don't think there's any other versions of it. There could be, but I mean, we're not trying to attack with it. It's got this nice little weird mustache there. 40 HP. This is from the Pokemon Go set, as both of them are, so it's been out for a little bit. Hyper Fang for 2 energy, flip a coin. If heads, if tails, the attack does nothing. Hopefully you're not going to have to attack with your Rattata. Alright, and then, so this is how we are going to get our knockouts. Brute Bonnet. When this one came out, it's like, ooh, this is going to take the deck to the next level. Because we are going to be able to use Toxic Powder. If you have an Ancient Booster Energy capsule attached, you can make both active Pokemon poisoned. It's going to poison your Pokemon too. You're hopefully by this time going to have your Raticate inactive. But that's okay. We're only doing 10 damage per turn. And basically now you're going to get your opponent down to 10 HP. And the Brute Bonnet's poison is going to get you the knockout. So even if your Raticate's going to get knocked out even the turn after or soon after, being a single prize deck, you're going to get a 2-for-1 for the most part, at least hopefully. But that's kind of what this is built around. And then we need a couple more support Pokemon, so I'm going to go with Pidgey and Pidgeot Ex. I've got 2 of those in there for quick search. There's a lot that this deck needs to work. So being able to get your Pidgeot out is going to make sure that you can pull the card that you need for that turn. It could be getting your another Raticate in hand. It could be Brute Bonnet. It could be getting its booster capsule. It could be pulling your energy, all kinds of stuff. So this really helps you out. Could be even a boss's orders to get a 2-prizer up into the active, right? So those are our Pokemon, pretty simple and straightforward. The supporters are really like where this is at and what makes this deck work. So let's talk about them. So for once, we're not starting with Buddy Poffin. Just kidding, we are. What deck is not complete without some buddy Poffins in here? So of course, I mean, in this case, we're going to get our Rattatas out and our Pidgeys out. It's not going to work on our Brute Bonnet because that one's got over 120 HP, so unfortunate, but that's really what we're trying to do, is get the Rattatas up. Since we're using Dark in this case, then the Dark patch is perfect for this deck, especially with the Radiant Greninja as your draw power. That's going to help make sure that you get those Raticates ready to go quicker, especially considering the Raticate needs 3 energies. But we'll go over kind of how to make that easier too. So there are some ways to kind of get it down to just 2 energies, which I'm going to leave as a surprise, but I'm sure that you can start getting your mind going on how to make that work. All right, and then we have Nest Ball. So I've got 3 Nest Balls because we do want to get the Brute Bonnet out. We want to have a better chance of doing so. And then, of course, our Radiant Greninja. I think 3 is enough. Night Stretcher, got 3 of those. Most of these things we're going to have 3. This is going to help us get our Raticate back to hand or an energy back to hand, a dark energy if we need. Really anything. I mean, maybe the Brute Bonnet gets knocked out, right? Prime Catcher, I think this one is the go-to in terms of the ace spec for this one. There's really nothing we need. A lot of decks you're seeing me maybe with the Hero's Cape or the Max Belt, but Prime Catcher seems to work best because we don't need those for sure in terms of damage, and I don't think the Hero's Cape's going to do too much for your Raticates. Prime Catcher is great to make sure that we're able to give us a little bit of flexibility for our own Pokemon as a switch, but also get the Pokemon you need into the active spot so that you can knock it out. You know, this is a really great card for finishing games. I really like to save it as long as I can, because your opponent might be like, oh man, try to buy some time and get your last Raticate out and give you some trouble, so you can get that 2-prizer up there without having to use a supporter for the turn. And maybe you're even able to pull it with Arven, which we also have in there. Rare Candy, I went back and forth because I only have 2 Pidgey, 2 Pidgeot. I initially had 3 Rare Candies, but I went down to 2 because I felt I needed other supporters. And we do have Arven in there to hopefully pull the Rare Candy if needed. Switch, I'm going with 3 switches because it is important to be able to swap out, like if we get a Rattata stuck in there, or if we get our Brute Bonnet stuck in there, we really want to be able to move that out of our active, a Pidgey, before it's a Pidgeot. I'm going with 3 switches. This one could be flexible to maybe go down to 2, but I think we want to be able to pull those. Ultra Ball, got 3 of those. We want to be able to get Raticate. We want to be able to get Brute Bonnet or even Radiant Greninja if we need. Of course, also the Pidgeot Ex too is important to get evolved as quickly as possible. 3 Ultra Balls. Enough said there. Arven, I've got 4 of them. The reason we want 4 Arven is because a lot of times the items that we can pull are just what we need. You know, whether it's a Rare Candy, even a Prime Catcher, Nest Ball, Dark Patch, all that good stuff, Night Stretcher. But then we really need Pokemon tools. Specifically, we need we need our Ancient Booster Capsule, which we'll go over in a second too. So that one's important. I think 4 Arvens are the way to go here so that we have a better chance of pulling them out. Also helps thin the deck in general. Boss's Orders. I'm going with 3 here as well. I think this is a deck where it's really important to be able to pull Pokemon into active so that we can just knock them out, especially if we're like thinking about getting their evolutions coming up. You know, sometimes you're not just doing it for a 2-prizer, but you know, you want to get some knockouts before they're able to do things like, especially with the Dragapult, and start hitting your bench. If you can get a Dreepy KO'd or anything like that, then let's do that as soon as possible. 3 bosses. Iono, you know, Iono is a great one to kind of hamstring your opponent as the match goes along, and then also get out of a bad hand ourselves. I think Iono is just a good card to play here, so I've got 3 of them. And finally, we've got our tools. This is another one I thought about. Like, I go back and forth. Like, do I want 3 ancient boosters here? I'm playing 2 right now. It is a little bit dangerous considering if we somehow lose both of our booster capsules, we have no way of getting them back, and your match is pretty much done. So I'm really considering maybe swapping an Arven for them to get down to 3. but it's tough. I mean, maybe even 2 bosses. But so far I've been okay. I haven't lost both of mine. A lot of times I find that my opponent is really more focused on getting rid of my Rattatas than my Brute Bonnets. So I've been okay, but it's definitely risky. And I mean, if you have both of them prized, you might as well just end the match, because you don't have any real way of winning unless you want to just attack with the Brute Bonnet, which is a possibility, to at least try to like fish for some of these prizes. Now the other one I like here that works is the experience share, so that we can really make sure that our Raticates are able to stick with energy on them. They do need 3 energy. It can be a problem to get them loaded up quickly enough, because there are a lot of times with the 120 HP, yes, they're a single prizer, but needing 3 energy to attack, we want to be able to cycle them in and out as easily as possible, and if you're not careful, they're just going to continue to get knocked out before having the energy to attack. So very important to use that, right? Now let's go into, I don't have it up here, but double turbo energy. This is key to this deck too. You don't want to ever discard these. I've really had to, like, it really pains me because occasionally I have with concealed cards. But this is really key. It's 2 energy that we're getting onto our Raticates, and it doesn't matter that it's doing 20 less, because we're not doing damage, we're putting damage counters. So this energy is just perfect for the Raticates. Then you, aside from that, you just need 1 more dark energy, which hopefully you can put on, get a dark patch after you've concealed cards. But worst case scenario, if you can get a double turbo and this, it's only going to take you 2 turns. Or if you've got things loaded up and things are going well, then you've got your Raticate inactive, you've got a double turbo attached per turn, and then when that Raticate that's inactive gets knocked out, you've got an experience share. That's why I've got these. So good stuff there. And then we've just got 8 more of our shadow energies or dark energies, whatever you want to call them, and we'll call it a day. Strategy for this deck: 4 steps here. Get Brute boosted, Raticate energized, Pidgeot odded, and begin the 1-hit KOs. Pidgeot odded, I don't know, it sounds about right. But yeah, I mean, it's really that. I mean, if you can get this going, and especially get like yourself a really good starting hand where we can swarm our bench with our Rattatas, get ourselves an early Greninja on the bench so that we can use concealed cards. And then Pidgeot is really going to get us whatever we need for that turn, so that we can really make sure that we don't have any gaps in knockouts. It's very important not to have gaps in knockouts, because, you know, it is a 1 prize deck, but if you're getting 1 prize per turn yourself and you have a turn where you can't, then you're going to lose. So we need to make sure that we're knocking out a Pokemon every single turn, whether it's a 1 or 2 prizer, so that we can keep up with the fact that we're probably getting somebody knocked out every other turn in that regards. Or if things really do go badly for you, then go ahead and get your Pidgeot Ex inactive if you need a turn to kind of get your bearings back, to reset your board and things like that. Because the Pidgeot Ex, while it is a 2 prizer, so it's kind of risky in that it's your only 2 prizer. A lot of times it's 280 HP is going to give you a turn to get things back going again without losing a prize card and without losing a valuable Pokemon like a Rattata or a or one of your Brute Bonnets, and then it has the free retreat cost. Especially so, you know, this is an obvious strategy, I think, for anybody who's using a Pokemon that has a free retreat. But if you're at risk of not having your Raticate ready to go, then put your Pidgeot EX inactive. You know, especially like, for example, if it only has a double turbo energy on it, and you know, maybe you need some time to get yourself a dark patch or something like that. Remember that your Pidgeot has its free retreat cost, so when you get somebody knocked out, throw it in the active. And worst case scenario, it just hangs out in the active for a turn, takes a hit, and then you're able to retreat it. Do know that, you know, when you retreat it, it can get bossed up and get that knocked out for 2 cards, but that's okay, because now at least it took 2 turns to take 2 prize cards, whereas you're hopefully taking 1 turn to get 2 once we get everybody back going again. Strengths and weaknesses. This one's a very, like, it's funny because it has very few strengths and very few weaknesses, but like both of them are like extremely jarring. right? I mean, the strengths is it's a one-prize deck, and it can one-shot anything. Pretty much anything, unless you're dealing with someone who's got like mist energies, or if you're dealing with other Pokemon who are immune to those things, which is pretty rare. And especially what you find a lot of times is that the Pokemon that do, it's against those that have rule boxes. So you're usually in a pretty good spot with the Raticate. The very worst case scenario, you might have to mess around and use your boss's orders and prime catchers and just hope that there's at least 3 2-prize cards that you can boss up and knock out while you've got your your Raticates ready. So that's, it's a big strength, but at the same time, in the weaknesses, it's extremely unadaptable. Like, if you cannot use the Super Fang, then you're just going to lose. There's no way around it. You've got Blustery Wind with Pidgeot Ex that you can use. I have used it to finish off matches a couple times, so there are times where you can kind of get away with it, but there's no way your Pidgeot EX attacking is going to win you a game. There's no way that your Brute Bonnet is going to win you a game either. So if you cannot use Super Fang, you're going to lose. It's very unadaptable. If your opponent realizes that and just focuses on getting rid of your Rattatas and Raticates, then, they don't have to worry about Pidgeot. They don't have to worry about KOing the Brute Bonnet if they can do that. So very, very unadaptable, very squishy with low HP. They're pretty much the same thing there. Don't know why I put them twice. I wanted at least 3, I guess. Your Raticate's got 120 HP. Even the Brute Bonnet, if you put an Ancient Booster Capsule on it, it obviously really helps, and you're up to, 190 or something like that. But still rather squishy. A lot of EXs are going to one-shot even your Brute Bonnet. So very tough with that, but you can usually get around it. We've got our Night Stretchers to be able to pull them back if they're getting knocked out. You really just want to focus on kind of divvying out your energies in a way that doesn't put you in a tough position. This deck is really weak to things like Hydreigon. I've gotten just annihilated by them because they can usually, they can take 3 prizers in a turn if I'm not careful because of my singles there. Or things like, of course, we're still weak to decks like the Dragapult, which is okay because we can also one-shot him, and as long as we get our Raticates evolved on the bench, he's not going to one-shot us. But we're dealing with Rattatas that have 40 HP, and there's really no good way. I thought about throwing a Manaphy on the bench for this one, but I think our biggest problem right now to deal with is going to be the Dragapults, which are putting the damage counters. It's obviously not a it's not a basic, so the Jirachi's not going to help. So, we'll go from there and just do what we can, and just really, like, the key is being quick. It's okay if you're taking a prize card for a Rattata or a Raticate, but as long as you're able to get another one ready to go, then you can still usually knock them out faster than they can knock out 6 prizes. Some other cards to consider here. Janine's Secret Art is one that's I'd really consider it. It would make it easier to really load up our Raticates because we're choosing up to 2 of our Pokemon for each. Search your deck for a basic energy and attach it. If you do, your active Pokemon is now poisoned, which that's really not a big deal in terms of active being poisoned because obviously we're already using the Brute Bonnet to poison. So it's something to think about. I'd consider throwing it in. I just don't know what to remove for it, and I don't know if the 2 energy is really worth it. This one would probably be one that if you want to just get rid of the double turbos would be a good option, and then you would be able to more easily use things like the Night Stretchers on them and the Dark Patches. I still like the double turbos better, so I think I'm going to stick with not using it. Pokemon League Headquarters is a solid one too because we're attacking with our Raticates. So if you want to just make it tougher for them to knock out your Raticates, if they're using basic Pokemon themselves, then it costs 1 more. I don't know. I don't think it's a good one though. Unfair Stamp. Now this is one I'd think about over the A-Spec. It's probably my second favorite of the deck. You know, if your Pokemon get knocked out, which they are going to be knocked out a lot, then you shuffle your hand, you draw 5, they draw 2. So it's a pretty solid, can help you with disruption because you are going to be knocking theirs out. So if you could kind of get them hand locked, then we might be in an okay spot. But I don't know. It's something to think about. The Megaton Blower, I think, is a one to consider too, because of the special energy. If you're really worried about missed energies, and even tools as well, you can discard their tools, and stadiums, I think this one's solid to play. You know, you can get rid of, like if your opponent's using the area 0 underdepths for like loading up their bench. This one's one that I don't know, I haven't tried this one in play yet, which is why maybe I'm not like super on it, but I think it has some potential, especially with, like I said, the missed energies, which I don't see a huge amount of play in order to justify it, but it is a way to make sure that you're not just gonna like auto lose to some people who are using missed energies. TM Evolution, one that I'm thinking about in this one too, just to like help us get our Raticates out there. I just don't quite know if there's enough. I mean, if we did use this one, I might try to fit in a Pidgeotto in the deck so that we can help get that one involved. But I don't know. I'm thinking this one's a no. Honestly, I don't even know why I put it in here because I probably would never do it. Hyper Aroma is another solid one if you want to help get your Raticates up. Not a huge fan. Now this one, the Artisan, is one I'd kind of like to fit in. Because it can help us easily get our Rattatas up, and then we can also use it to pull our Brute Bonnets, which is important. So this is why this is one I'd like to put in, but just looking at my list, it's like, what would I cut for it? So let me know in the comments if you think there's a way to fit Artisan in. I really do think that this is one that I should try to get in there to really help. It also helps thin the deck too, and make sure that I'm just helping me get my Raticates ready to go. Now, Energy Lotto. Is it Lotto or Loto? I think Lotto has 2 T's, but what is a Loto? I don't know. Maybe that's what it is, whatever this weird thing is. This one I used in a Tatsugiri deck, actually, that played a little bit similar to this in terms of being a 1-prizer and getting double turbos. You look at the top 7, reveal an energy, and shuffle the rest in. What I like about this is it helps you to find the double turbos. You know, we've only got 4 of them in deck, so being able to pull them easier would be nice. It's just another one that's like, where do I fit this one in? What do I cut for it? So I left it out in this deck. I didn't find a place for it, but that's pretty much it. I don't think there's any Pokemon that I would swap in or consider swapping in. We've really got exactly what we need. So that's kind of that. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. I'm Ryan, and I was happy to be here showing off this radically radioactive Raticate deck. Should have said that from the beginning, huh? You know, so, some nice alliteration, as I overuse alliteration too much. But if you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can join the Hawks Nest. We're a fearless flock of fabulous folks who just love to do what we love and love to do it well. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this deck. Is it viable? Is it surprisingly good? Because honestly, when I hadn't used it in so long, and when I started going back on TCG Live with it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I was winning a decent amount of matches. So make sure you stay tuned for the next episode, when we are going to put it into action on TCG Live. Let's see, how many are we going to win? Can we keep our good streak up? We've been doing pretty well with these road decks, all things considered. So are we going to continue to do well with our Raticate? It's one of the oldest cards that I've built a deck around so far, in terms of it being just on the edge of being legal because we are going to rotate soon. So even if it is really good, it won't be good for extremely much longer, but it is still good for now. So we'll see it in action. So definitely check that out, and we'll see you next time.